hopefully welcome back to our Grand Pacific Voyage aboard the Silversea Silver Muse. This time we're going to make landfall in Darwin, Australia, indulge in 3 sea days before reaching Cairns, Australia, and then jumping into a series of days traveling the Sunshine Coast of the Australian continent. But first things first, welcome to Darwin, the smallest, wettest, and most northerly of the Australian capital cities. Darwin is a uniquely tropical city and historically isolated outpost of this vast, diverse country. Darwin is actually 2,000 miles closer to the equator than either Sydney or Melbourne, and was named in honor of Charles Darwin by the British settlers who established a frontier outpost there. For our excursion today, we traveled to the Territory Wildlife Park, about 45 minutes from Darwin. Open since 1989, it covers a whopping 625 hectares or 1,544.4 acres of bushland. An Australian government-owned business, the park intends to inform and educate visitors through authentic wildlife encounters and true nature-based experiences. That idea of education begins immediately with this unique rug showing a full-size outline of a saltwater crocodile with the outline of a man-sized figure superimposed on top and emblazoned with the words "Size Matters." And while there is a tram that can take visitors around the entirety of the park, it is also completely walkable via the well-marked trails. We decided, for right or wrong, that we would walk the park trails and visit as much as our short allotted time allowed. If we hadn't known there was a distinct Halloween theme going on, we might have questioned that choice. From the main station, we walked to the Nocturnal House for a visit. The walk was about 400 meters. The light cycle in the Nocturnal House is set up to be opposite of what it is outside, so you can see the animals at their most active. And while photography was difficult because of the lighting, here are a few creatures to enjoy. Leaving the Nocturnal House, we continued on our way to Woodland Walk to visit some wallabies and some wallaroos. Once inside the double-gated enclosure, there are no barriers between yourself and the animals. We immediately spotted some wallabies, and on our way out, some wallaroos. From the wallaby enclosure, we continued on to the area marked Billabong. We were told to watch out for crocodiles in this area, but saw only a turtle instead. Along with the turtle, we saw some fairly magnificent pelicans. Now, I'm assuming from the calm way that the pelicans were making their way around the pond that the threat of man-eating crocodiles might have been slightly exaggerated. Continuing our Halloween-themed walk, we left the Billabong area and headed toward the Monsoon Rainforest Walk. Upon entering, we were treated to an artificial display of what a monsoon might look like. And from that watery entrance, we proceeded on into the aviary for a bit of bird watching. This rather interesting bird with the long legs is called a pied stilt bird. And while I have no idea what this bird is called, it does have an interesting dance routine. In the aviary, we also spotted some distant cousins of the Komodo dragon, the monitor lizard. Some interesting looking owls. A channel-billed cuckoo. And a duck carousing around with these black ibis. This part of our little discovery tour was almost a kilometer in length, and by the time we were finished with the rainforest walk, it was time to head back to the main station, as we were running out of time. Well, we made it back to main station with a little bit of time left, so I decided we'd try to go down the other leg to see if we could see some water buffaloes, wallaroos, and emus. But after 200 meters or so down that trail, well, the heat won, and we went dragging back to the main station, where one of the park rangers was trying to convince anybody, to come play with his snakes. So, did we make a mistake by going in on foot? I don't think so. The tram comes around every 1/2 hour and stops at each attraction, but does not wait if you want to jump off to peruse that area. So, a lot of walking would be required anyway. The real problem lies with the tour only allowing less than 2 hours at the park. If you have 4 hours or a full day at the park, I think it would be a much more worthwhile and meaningful excursion. On the way back to the ship, we were exposed to what Australians call the road train. In certain areas of Australia, you can couple up to 3 full-length trailers and a couple of mini trailers for an incredible length of 175 feet or 53.5 meters. That is the maximum allowed on public roads. But on private roads, no such limit applies. We arrived back at the port. Before boarding, we had to read this sign, admonishing us there would be no flamethrowers, no rocket launchers, no bazookas, and no missiles or rockets allowed. But after clearing that last obstacle, we found ourselves back on the Silversea, enjoying a beautiful sunset as we sailed away from Darwin, Australia. The next day was one of 3 sea days en route to Cairns, Australia. Today's special was a lunch for the Grand Pacific passengers called the Chef and the Sommelier. This private function was held in the Silver Note, where we were treated to a rather nice lunch and wine pairing. This 4-course extravaganza would be presented with a different wine pairing at each course. The meal started out strong with our amuse-bouche choice, which was tuna tartare, followed by a second course of roasted carrots and anise salad, all presented while our head chef, Rajiv, and our sommelier, Bilyana, explained the choices and the preparation of each dish. Third course was sea bass, followed by a fourth course of different cheeses presented with a 10-year-old port. And the meal finished up with a wonderful pineapple baba with a bit of edible gold foil. That night in the Venetian Lounge, we attended the Silversea Society cocktail mixer before heading off to dinner, all dressed in our finest.
Wonderful cruise line. Now, it's because of your wonderful returning back to Silverseas that Silversea has grown in such an exponential way.
Finally posing for one more formal shot. And while we slept, they dressed the ship up for Halloween. That night we had dinner again at Landtide and enjoyed a pumpkin soup to celebrate Halloween. Our complete dining and drink guide is coming soon, so stay tuned. And after dinner, we went to the Panorama Lounge to find out what a Halloween party looks like on the Silver Muse.
He opened the lid and shook his fist and said,
The next day, another day at sea. This time featuring our cruise director, Jonathan Shade, with his solo show, New York City Songs and Stories.
Out of touch with the rhythm and blues. 'Cause when push comes to shove, I will kill your friends and family to remind you of my love. Da 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 ya da.
And the next day was our next port of call, Cairns, Australia. Saying the name of this city is a lot like potato, potato, tomato, tomato kind of thing. Where I say Cairns, other people might say Cairns or Cairns. I don't know. Regardless, I think I'm surely saying it wrong, so my apologies to all my Aussie friends. Regardless, it was a beautiful sail into Cairns, a city located on or very near the Great Barrier Reef. Today, our excursion would take us 30 minutes outside of Cairns for an Aboriginal rainforest journey. We started looking over the animals at Rainforest Station, where they kept a small zoo and animal sanctuary. Here they had the neatest thing called the ruler or kangarooler. Judging by this guy's size and the fact he's in a tree, this must be a tree kangaroo. And according to the ruler, these little guys must be wallabies. And these slightly bigger boys and girls must be either wallaroos or the gray kangaroo. Carrying on, we found, hey, don't swim in this water, which actually looked quite inviting other than the signs and the barbed wire fence, keeping you away from these boys. Rainforest Station also has a few koalas on hand, just sort of lazing about. There are also cassowaries, Tasmanian devils, wombats, and even dingoes. And we were to take a ride on the Army Ducks. These vehicles, built in the 40s, are now almost 80 years old and still running. Well, except for the one that you saw in the first picture. Our driver, who had a decidedly not Australian accent, kept up a running dialogue telling us about the flora and fauna of the surrounding jungle. Trails for a while before hitting the water in our amphibious vehicle. Before long, and our driver had to engage the propellers. around a while before exiting the small lake/pond and making our way back to Rainforest Station. But before we did, we had a demonstration of what's called either the strangler vine or the wait a while vine. And this is a bit of Australian flora that you do not want to tangle up in. Yes, I know I'm dating myself here, but doesn't this look like something from Day of the Triffids? But Triffids aside, we made it back safely to Rainforest Station and got ready for our next part of the show, the Aboriginal Culture Experience. This experience included demonstrations of the didgeridoo, spear throwing, and even a chance to try, emphasis on the try, to toss a boomerang.
That Pinot those are good for back stretching. Now the narrow neck on the speed throw, that's where the fish grip it, nice firm grip.
Where to go?
Oh, bye-bye.
And the show was capped with a Aboriginal traditional dance that is all about the animals of the bush and the hunting and fishing of those animals. And then it was back to Cairns for a beautiful sail away as the sun sank low, slipping below the mountain tops. Tonight was another carnivore's delight at the grill. And here comes my ribeye in that super hot 750 degree Fahrenheit lava stone that it would be cooked on. It was a bit quiet tonight at Hot Rocks, and we had the restaurant venue pretty much all to ourselves. And after a wonderful dinner at Hot Rocks, we went to the Venetian Lounge to catch Jim Hodson, a multi-instrumentalist who put on a neat show featuring anything from surf music to Broadway to classic rock instrumentals. that's it for Segment 3, Part 3. Please like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell to be kept up to date with new releases. Check out our website for a bit more information on what's going on. And stay tuned for more of the Grand Pacific Voyage. Next time, Segment 3, Part 4, takes us to Townsville, Australia, Chute Harbour, the gateway to the Whitsunday Islands, and Mooloolaba, before wrapping up Segment 3 in Brisbane, Australia. Safe and happy travels from Tees Cruise and Travel Muse.